Great. Good morning, everyone. It is a beautiful Monday, January 26th, year of our Lord 2026. This is the Bob Cordaro Show. I am he, broadcasting today from the United States of America. I can prove it in a lot of ways. And it's also the place where the brave, like the veterans we've lost last year and this, but celebrate today thanks to John Basiliga and his great Eastern roofing systems. These men have made us and kept us free. The United States of America, founded with the certain knowledge and understanding by our incredible founding fathers that the government is not, shall not be, cannot be our parent, our guide, our direction, our salvation. Not any of these things, but is nothing more than a necessary evil we require to organize and protect society. The United States of America, the country where, for the first time in human history, freedom was declared to be an unalienable right granted to each individual by God. Freedom couldn't be parceled out to groups. It couldn't be controlled by government or government officials because our great American Constitution ensures and codifies freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of association, economic freedom, and freedom of the press. If they lie, so what? We know better. We're free to ignore them. Now, armed with these freedoms, and only because they had them, a ragtag bunch of immigrants, rejects, and their progeny who made up this country created the richest, most powerful, most culturally diverse and accepting nation ever to grace our planet Earth. America, the only place specifically invented and designed so that every American can live their life in the manner they choose, unlimited by their background, upbringing, race, color, or creed, unhindered by the government or those who would use government to control others for their own comfort, benefit, or power. This Bob Cordaro Show, well, it'll always be convincingly conservative, lovingly logical, proudly and passionately patriotic, and reliably right. And so, as my Bacardo's watch tells me, it's 9:16. We can gavel to order this meeting of the Club for Common Sense, promising that our commitment to common sense will deliver and provide a sanctuary of sanity for all of you in a world that's gone insane and in a world in which commentators, I just don't know. And I got to be, I love, you've got to know this. I truly love and care for the morning guys, Nancy and Jason. And I'm listening on the way in, and it's like all left-wing observers. Going back to this incident that happened with the clown who decided he was going to bring a tactical weapon to his protest. Okay? Now, the thing they're forgetting, let's start. Again, we're always with the context thing. The scumbags who run the city of Minneapolis, that Jacob Fry, I'm telling you, if I saw him, I would probably just physically attack him. And the same thing with goofball Walls. These scum are not allowing state and local police forces to do crowd control when a bunch of clowns, sick idiots, decide they are going to thwart law enforcement. Now, I watched this video from, I guess, 5 or 6 different angles. And the one thing that, and again, it goes back to the left-wing stupidity. Who's creating the chaos here? Biden lets between 10 and 20 million people, the best estimates, 20 million people, into this country. Open borders. No vetting, no checking, Nothing. No shots, because remember, COVID shots were so important to these people. Do you remember how important they were? Get a shot or you're part of the problem, or I'll let you, Jimmy Kimmel saying, I'll let them die. Don't treat them at hospitals. Remember those sick bastards? Remember that? Well, they let them all in. So there's your more context. Number one. And then they don't allow the police to do the crowd control for these protesters. So the protesters are like, oh, we've only got the Gestapo to deal with. So let's try to bang them up. Do you hear the whistles? They're creating chaos with their border policies, the Democrat Party, with their lack of law enforcement, with their encouragement of the protesters. So this sick idiot brings a tactical gun. You've seen the weapon. It's not just a pistol. It's not in a holster. And I grant you, there are questions. Because the gun had been taken from the guy, who, by the way, was violently resisting. There's not even a dispute about that. He was violently resisting, even after non-lethal methods were used. They sprayed him in the face. He was violently resisting after that. He had possession of you would think it was almost a toy gun. It was so ridiculous. Clearly not for self-protection. Clearly not for anything other than an evil purpose. That's not what you protect yourself with. And he's in their face. He continues to resist after non-lethal force is used. He fights violently on the ground with a number of agents. One of the agents takes the gun off him. And then, because he continues to violently struggle on the ground, one of the agents shoots him. Now, and there's no... It's actually idiot. Did he deserve to die? That is not even a relevant question. The only relevant question is, number one, Jacob Fry and Tim Walz should be in prison for not allowing the Minneapolis police and the Minnesota State Police from doing their job, which is crowd control of idiots. Most from out of town. This guy was not. The first fool that got shot was. But they're at fault. Oh, they're not trained. Yeah, they're not trained at crowd control. They're trained to get scum off the streets. And that's what they were doing. These people protecting the pedophiles, the rapists, the murderers who are here in this country illegally. And by the way, it goes exactly in context with all the idiots who lied about the 5-year-old kid who ICE saved from a horrible parent. Unbelievable. So yeah, there should be an investigation. Why were the shots fired after the gun was taken off him? And let's see. But taking it out of context, it makes me sick. It truly does. Somebody said, I don't follow Republican or Democrat parties. While I feel the guy who was shot should have never put himself in that situation, he's violently resisting law enforcement after they've already used non-lethal force. He refused to be subdued. He's fighting, kicking, screaming violently. That's what he did. Let's not overlook the reality. But the listener continues. On video release to see that this guy whipped out his gun. No, he didn't whip out his gun. The guy says, as a middle-of-the-road guy, it's silly to see Democrats swear he didn't have a gun. Well, he did. While Republicans swear he did, while there's absolutely no strong evidence either. Well, yes, there is. They took the gun off of him. In the videos, at least one of the versions I watched, and I watched them all that were available, one of the agents takes the gun away, and he should have said he had done that. He should have informed them. The call is gun. I'm sure they had the call. But the guy kept fighting violently. There's no defense for this clown. Whether excessive force was used after the gun was taken from him, that question should be reviewed. But don't forget who's causing the problem. The Democrats who opened the border, and Jacob Fry said, bring them all in, baby. We're a sanctuary city. Tim Walz said, bring them all in. We're a sanctuary state. And then, guess what? We're not going to employ our police force or our state police so these guys could do their job. Oh, and we're also not going to allow these guys to simply go into prisons and take these scumbags out. No, we're not going to allow any of that. They're at fault, 1,000%. It's not even shared responsibility. Let's look at what happened. Let's see why. Okay, and by the way, the guy who shot or the people who shot, because there was 4 or 5 agents there, have to ask, well, why didn't you know? And the guy who took the gun off of him, why didn't you know that the gun was now taken away? And then what was in your mind when you fired? Those questions, beyond legitimate. Important, in fact. But if anybody's prosecuted, it should be Walz and Fry, the scummiest, slimiest fools that have ever been elected to office. Unreal. Anyway, we'll take a break. Bob Cordaro, WILK. We'll be back. Our veterans tribute this hour and every hour, this day and every day. Brought to you by our man John Basiliga and his first and biggest company, Eastern Roofing Systems. Headquartered in Jessup, they're one of the largest, and they are the premier roofing contractor for industrial, commercial, and institutional purposes in the eastern United States. And guess what? They bring all that expertise, all that buying power, and because they're headquartered here, they'll do your home or small building right in Northeast PA within the sound of my voice. Eastern Roofing Systems. Gary Rotherforth. He was from Forest City. We lost him December 26th last year. He was born in that great city, raised by his paternal grandmother, the late Cora Rotherforth. He was a graduate of Forest City High School, a veteran of the United States Air Force, having served during the Vietnam War era. He was a member of Christ Episcopal Church, Forest City. Prior to retirement, he was employed as a mechanic at the amazing Gentex Corp in Simpson. Previously, he was a self-employed contractor. He was a construction guy. He enjoyed driving his yellow Plymouth Prowler around town. He loved dogs, golf, and playing pool. A loving father. Surviving a daughter and her husband, 3 sons, their spouses, 9 grandchildren, 2 great-grandchildren, nieces, nephews, and his best friend, Tita Bowen of Simpson. Tragically, he was preceded in death by his son, Frank. Gary Rotherforth. Alfred Bohr. He was 90 when we lost him December 27th. He was from Harding. Born in Scranton. He served in the United States Air Force for 13 years. Then employed by the Bendix Corporation, followed by Pope and Talbot Paper Mill when he retired in 1997. Surviving to cherish his life and memories are his wife of 63 years, the former Bonnie Winters, his children, his grandchildren, and many other family members. Alfred Bohr. Our great veterans this hour brought to you by John Basiliga and his great Eastern Roofing Systems. Storm Tracker 16 forecast from meteorologist Allie Gallo. Today, breezy with a few flakes, otherwise cloudy, high near 20. Tonight, clouds, very cold, down to 6. Tuesday, cloudy and cold, high 14. Wednesday, partly sunny, high 20. So the weather was a bit frightful, I guess, this weekend. We dealt with it at our home, and I had a strategy going in. And then my neighbor John enhanced that strategy. The strategy was every so many hours, I would go out and I would shovel the walks. And then Cutie has this electric blower. It's not enough to do the sidewalks, but I would blow off the cars because I said, if I just let it accumulate, I'll be out there tomorrow morning and never get it done. So I did that. I did do that. Probably about 5 times I went out. My neighbor, what a great neighbor up there in the hill section. John goes by with his gas-powered blower. Then he went by at least 2 more times with his snow blower. And he not only did my house, his own, obviously, which is a corner lot, his, and then he did the next 2 neighbors. I was fantastic. So we kept ahead of it. And Big Lou was trapped in the, I told you, I can't get it in the garage. It's too big. But I put on the low 4 this morning and drove out of the heavy snow where it was parked. and no problem getting in. It wasn't that bad for that vehicle. If I had a small car, I'd be concerned to be on the road because there was still snow, and I will tell you, if you had to stop suddenly, it wouldn't be good. So I mean, it is encouraging that most people are staying off the road. Not a lot of trucks on the road at all. That's the other good thing. But it was a great day. We watched the football. We watched some shows. And then every so often, I'd go out and do the deal, do the shoveling. But thank you to our neighbor, John, who really, that was great of him. And we didn't ask him. I mean, I'm fully capable of shoveling my walks, but it was just nice that he did that. Great stuff. Oh, by the way, speaking of this week we're going to start, but we're adding a new sponsor to this program. Tina Morocco, who is Premier Sotheby International Realty in Naples, Florida. The timing couldn't be better because he can't. There was when is February 1st? So I wasn't going to start her late. I wanted to start her early. I'd rather give you more than less. So we're gonna talk to her at 10:35 and find out why we should be moving to Naples in Southwest Florida, or having a second home, one or the other. I think the answer is self-evident, isn't it? Oh, Lord. Somebody says, I don't lean left, but did the guy pull the gun on the agents? I agree he shouldn't have been there in the first place, but if they shot him, where did that go? Just because he had a gun on him, that's pretty bad. No, he was violently fighting. You're missing the point, too, though. He was violently fighting on the ground. They already, and the pistol looks like a normal everyday carry to me. Did you see the scope on it? What are you talking about? You didn't see the gun then. And hey, carry a gun if you can. No problem. But don't carry it to a confrontation with armed law enforcement. That's so stupid, it's off the charts. And again, they tried non-lethal. Then they had to physically subdue him because he was still attacking them after they sprayed him. And he's fighting on the ground right until he got shot. So I don't know. Again, they've got to go through their protocols and their appropriate behavior to make determinations here. Meaning, I believe they were Border Patrol agents. They've got to go through but I don't see much improper, but I would like to know what was the concern that these officers had when they shot him, number one. Number two, did the guy who took the gun tell them he took the gun? There's questions to be answered. But again, it goes back to scumbag Biden, scumbag Fry, scumbag Waltz. That's what it goes in. From Rich McHale, Bob, isn't it funny how the left changed the narrative to fit their agenda? Example, the recent shooting in Minneapolis. The guy was a licensed carrier. I guess they no longer support gun control. Yeah, look, they're doing all kinds of nonsense. Bob, January 6 people, one of the trolls, brought guns and pepper sprayed cops, and you said nothing. They didn't bring guns. So you're lying again, because apparently you've got to enhance a weak argument. Number two, I said a lot. See, again, these people, they're not even capable of listening. I was beyond critical of the people who went into the Capitol January 6th. What's the matter with, seriously, there's something wrong with you. You're a consistent troll and a liar and a hypocrite. I don't get it. I really don't get it. See you at the ballot box in November. Yeah, let's vote for people who violently oppose the law. They're law deniers. So they violently oppose enforcement of the law. They violently oppose those who are enforcing it, and they violently support rapists, murderers, pedophiles. Yeah, let's do things that way. Johnny, you got something to play, don't you? Play it, man. Did I do the weather yet? I didn't even do the weather, did I? Did I do the weather? No, I didn't do the weather. Play that sounder. We forgot the weather. I got worked up. I'm telling you, these people, they just want to lie. Why? Play the weather sounder, Bulldog. Let's go. You don't have it? You're just going to say weather. That's all? All right, that's fine. Stormbreaker 16 forecast from meteorologist Ali Gallo, brought to you by our friends at Montage Mountain. Oh my gosh, the conditions are now insane. They're amazing. Get there. Today, breezy with a few flakes, otherwise cloudy, high near 20. Tonight, clouds very cold, down to 6. Tuesday, cloudy and cold, high 14. Wednesday, partly sunny, high 20. And I just realized I did do the weather. Now we'll play the vid. Go ahead. Elvis, number one hit in the UK. Murph says this date, 1961, which marked his sixth number one hit there. Great stuff. We'll be back. It's the Bob Cordaro Show. Day 42. The Biden banner. Stolen valor in Greenridge. Thanks to the Greenridge Neighborhood Association. Embarrassing not only themselves, but discrediting our veterans. Greenridge held hostage. Day 42. Yeah, well, we're back. Bob Cordaro, WILK. And of course, the 1942, the first expeditionary force arrived in Belfast, Northern Ireland. This date. Amazing. What a country this is. And then January 26, 63, the Four Seasons released their hit Walk Like a Man on VJ Records, Murph tells us. All right, let's go to the blower right away. And it is Joe from Berwick. Joe, how are you?
I'm doing well today, Bob. We're out making money shoveling snow.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah, but hey, I wanted to comment on something here because, you know, there's the idea of people might be tempted to think, well, can we come to an agreement here? Can reasonable voices rise to the surface on this? Well, I'm here to tell you that the answer, unfortunately, on this issue with Minnesota is no, and here's why. These are the very same people who just a few short years ago were doing the exact same thing to law enforcement all over this country as they're now doing to ICE.
Yes.
They called for the abolishment of law enforcement. These people are anarchists. They're not protesters.
That is a great point. I say it all the time. There's no room for compromise with idiocy, with insanity. There isn't. My gosh.
Well,
okay, we're enforcing the law. We're taking pedophiles, murderers, rapists from in your midst, and you're violently protesting against it. There's something wrong with you.
Well, the only thing there are two things I would add. I mean, you know, number one, Trump still at times needs someone to tell him to shut up because he goes too far with some of his comments. I know that.
Without doubt.
But the other thing is, Bob, you know, your news report right at the top of the hour when you came on, they reported, 600 businesses closed in support of this protest. And I'm saying, no, they didn't. You had 600 businesses closed possibly, but how many of those closed because they knew if they didn't, they would have violent protesters come in the way they did in that church, and Minneapolis police would not support them?
These are, by the way, a lot of these businesses are the same ones who got ransacked in the summer of love after the criminal OD'd. Yeah. Floyd. It's again, you're right. It's very important to point out, and you did it very smartly. These people cannot be reasoned with, so you've got to go forth and do your business and help them despite themselves. Yep.
Yeah. Well, hey, Bob, I would like to help you shovel your driveway, but I'm too far away, and I got a full day of work ahead of me.
No, I could do it. I need it. I need the exercise. We're not a corner lot. I didn't even do my driveway because I can't get Big Lou into the garage. It's an older house, but there's these great garages beneath the house, and I can't fit Lou in there because you got to bring the side view mirrors in, and then when you're backing out, you need the side view mirrors because it's such a tight fit. So I never use it. I have to park on the street. All
right. Well, hey, you have a good one, Bob. Okay.
Thank you, Joe. And I have a great neighbor who did that for me too. Again, help me with it. He had to run his snowblower at least 3 times. He ran it on the street, in fact. To help people not get blocked in. He did that at least once. So, yeah, thank you, John. All right, we got to take a break. Bob Cordaro, WILK. My Bacardo Jewelers watch tells me it's 10:01, which means it's time for the news, biased or otherwise. We'll be back. Great good morning, everyone. 10:08 a.m. on my Cordaro Jewelers watch in the great Northeast this beautiful Monday, January 26th, year of our Lord, 2026. This is the Bob Cordaro Show. I am he, and it's a big day to fight for America, defend our values, and with the help of our man, John Basiliga, and his Great Eastern Roofing Systems, to honor the brave who have made us and kept us free. People like veterans we lost last year in this, but celebrate today, thanks to John, like Alfred Bohr of Harding, Gary Rotherford of Forest City, Jack Bradish, Freeland, Joseph Ryman, Wilkes-Barre, Gerald Berliner of Berwick, and John Mikowski of Cunningham. So with history, our great founding fathers, and the incomparable Constitution of the United States of America as our guides, let us continue today's battle. Gaveling back to order this meeting of the Club for Common Sense, promising you that our commitment to common sense will provide a sanctuary of sanity for all of you in a world where, for whatever reason, an entire political party, the Democrats, has gone insane, and a hell of a lot of people are blindly following them down that rabbit hole. Yep. Hey, Mother Teresa for January 26th. She says, I want you to be concerned about your next-door neighbor. Do you know your next-door neighbor? Especially on weather like now. And I told you about my great neighbor, John, helping everybody out in the neighborhood with his... I told him it's like Goodfellas, or not Goodfellas. It's like Ghostbusters. He's got the tool. He's got the tools. He's got the talent. He came out first early in the morning with his gas-powered blower. Cutie only has electric. And then he came out with the snowblower 3 more times. For what? 1, 2, 3, 4 houses across the board, including his own. Amazing. So, yeah, remember your neighbor, and especially with the weather going, a little bluey on us. It's going to be very, very cold this week. One of our listeners says, to be clear, I'm not saying they should have or shouldn't have. I'm just asking because the videos are not clear of what happened. But if they did disarm, how is he still a valid threat that's worth shooting him over? That's all I'm asking. That's what I hope you were listening. And by the way, there's trolls who are incapable of listening. As soon as a word triggers them, their mind is off into another realm. But I also understand how people listen to the radio. You're not sitting, with rapt attention to every word I say. But no, I made that very clear. There needs to be an investigation. They need to ask those officers, well, why did you still consider him a lethal threat? Now, that may be just because he was thrashing and violently fighting them on the ground. Because non-lethal force had not worked for a couple of minutes there. But the gun was taken away. Somebody pointing out that that's a normal red dot or something. No, that's not normal. I'm sorry. That's not a normal weapon. And it wasn't in a holster. You know what I mean? The guy was 1,000,000% wrong for bringing that and then for fighting law enforcement. Period. By the way, somebody knows this voice already. Sean Farish. We're playing him every hour because my brother sent that to me, and it's just hilarious. And I said, I'm gonna have the Donald Trump weather report at least today. But yeah, I come on, we know this, and we've got to be even in. But by the way, I'm not gonna be hanging cops. Like I didn't want the guy who shot the Air Force veteran in the Capitol to be hung out to dry either. He made a mistake, I think, but he made a reasonable mistake because it was pandemonium. It was pandemonium with the whistles blowing and this clown fighting like a wild man, like somebody possessed on the ground. And it's an unfortunate accident, and the guy's dead. But he caused his own death along with Jacob Fry and Tim Walz and Joe Biden. Period. All right. It's Monday. And rain, snow, sleet, it doesn't matter. He's on his ranch in Colorado, and he's reporting. John Perillo, Monday Musings. How are you, my friend?
Thanks for being on duty and with all the weather we got out here. So, and you out there.
Oh, I knew I was coming in. I mean, Cutie saying, "Stay home, stay home," and I'm like, "No, I gotta. It's a minor duty, but it's my duty." And I said, "I'm gonna do it."
And thank you to you and your neighbor, by the way. So,
isn't he great? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel forced to look at the ICE raids. To be honest with you, I don't want to. The reaction to them and the attitude of the people to both the FBI and immigration enforcement, because now we have essentially both political parties at odds with their own law enforcement teams. And remember what I said about trust in institutions being critical to the survival of civilizations. We have citizens protesting, and mostly without knowing all the facts, and it's tearing our country apart. Obviously, you hear that on the show. And there was a commentary by Andrew McCarthy, who was the federal prosecutor who put away the blind Sheikh Mohammed.
Love
and
Andrew
I think
McCarthy.
a fascinating guy. And I think his front row seat to the enforcement of our counterterror laws makes his point kind of worth considering. So it all starts with a case that McCarthy himself prosecuted, which was the first bombing of the World Trade Center back in '73. Bill Clinton is president, and he decides to take the blind sheikh to court, in part to show that that's how we in the U.S. handled such things. Right? We didn't string them up. We took them to court because that's the United States way. And at that point, terrorism in the U.S. began to be treated as a law enforcement issue. Now, that put the FBI in a very tough place because the U.S., our Constitution is set up in a way that it acknowledges that some people go free who are guilty, and that's preferred to people getting locked up who are innocent. That was, in the eyes of our founders, an acceptable level of crime, if you will, which they understood as part of the cost of living in a free society. Now, yes, morality has changed greatly since then, but it's indisputable that our justice system, where the government has to prove that you are guilty, was, at the time, completely unique. And many countries, even today, still require accused to prove innocence. Ours is different. And the problem for the post 9/11 country was that after you get to see 3,000 people slaughtered in one day, people demanded safety. And the problem was that neither most of the people that we have in government nor our citizens then or now really understand the difference between national security and law enforcement. And the FBI was and is an absolutely excellent police force, no matter what you may hear elsewhere. And the people that work there, are, with very few exceptions, are extremely professional and competent. They solve cases that nobody even knows are open. Ask some bank robber who gets arrested 4 years after their crime. However, as a domestic anti-terror organization, they're not quite as good. And for those of you who have ever watched a James Bond movie or have ever tried to fly the Israeli airline El Al, you get an idea of just what real domestic anti-terror organization feels like. And to summarize, it feels nothing like law enforcement. It's preemptive, and there's no due process. So if MI5 wants you dead or in some hole in the ground indefinitely, that's what happens. And if the Israelis don't want you to board an airplane based on nothing more than your profile and maybe a quick interview, you don't get on board. No due process, no presumption of innocence. That's what anti-terror looks like. Meanwhile, in the U.S., part of what happened to the FBI and the other federal agencies was that they were trying to do their new counter-terror role, but to do so in a way that upheld American legal mores. And when they did that, they just dropped all kinds of law enforcement roles. It was a matter of bandwidth. They didn't have the resources. Law enforcement is about solving crime. Something happens, you track down the person responsible, they have due process rights, and only if the government can make its case, then the person gets convicted. That standard is pretty high. So things like rules of evidence and the rights of the accused are very important. And I hate to break it to you all, but once you leave the U.S., once you're trying to prevent some terrorist wacko from blowing up your company as they cross a bridge in Indian country, almost all of what you're hearing about rights don't exist. The mindsets are completely different. And so we have the FBI, a law enforcement agency, trying to be an intelligence agency in a country where, as McCarthy puts it, The government serves free people, not the other way around. And because they're operating in the U.S. and touching U.S. citizens, they have to uphold U.S. rights of the accused, which I assure you, some CIA or embassy operator in the Hindu Kish or Argentina or Mexico City does not. And that schizophrenia causes problems. We want to be safe from terrorists in the U.S., and we want our rights protected, which becomes really problematic, especially with regards to immigration enforcement. And remember, while our founders certainly didn't approve of crime, neither did they believe that it could be removed entirely. I mean, you can, but then nobody's free. So crime isn't to be eliminated, it's to be managed, which is McCarthy's word. And that makes it difficult because preventing mass attacks or the bombing of our power grid, for instance, or the destroying of our ability to govern, because that requires different tools. And because of that, we got the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act and a greater role for agencies like the FBI and ICE, and a more restrictive rules on things like classified materials because the consequences of failure are so grave, which of course brings us to immigration. Nobody reasonably expects the government to deport every illegal living in the U.S. If we put the resources necessary to do that in place, there would be no other law enforcement. Of course, that doesn't mean that we approve of illegal immigration. It means that we might not approve of the erosion of our own rights necessary if we really wanted to eliminate every illegal in the U.S. But there are between 12 and 20 million illegals in the U.S. I think Bob's number was generous that he gave last hour. And if we accept the lower number of 12 million, that's greater than the population of 44 individual states. And to me, at least, that means it's no longer a law enforcement issue. It's now a national security issue. Mm-hmm. But even if there were no national security risk, no responsible person is saying that the U.S. can afford to bear the cost of those kind of numbers, at least one entire state worth of people who are here illegally. And on those on the left are inclined to whistle past the problem, because if it fundamentally transforms the U.S., that's kind of okay. Whereas the president and his supporters tend to see every illegal as a national security issue and can't understand why anyone would question their tactics. The problem is that for most of the country is a neither camp. The overwhelming majority see the border security as vital. Everyone should be stopped coming in, and those who attempt to do so illegally should be sent away. And many Americans believe that 4 years of open borders was enough of a crisis to at least be an issue to our national security and stability. But also most Americans don't believe that every illegal alien is a national security threat, even if there are far more ICE arrests in Texas than there are in Minnesota, and the reaction in Texas is very different, which is a topic for another time. And for those who think that we need to remove every illegal alien, if you're inclined to think that way, ask yourself for a second what that might look like to remove the population of an entire state. It's certainly not an excuse for how we got here, but it's a fact. Right? So where does that leave us? Well, it leaves many here frustrated because we now have a problem that was created by ignoring the law, and now we have people protesting the enforcement of that same law. But if we set aside that frustration, what's left is targeted enforcement, closing the borders while we sort this out, and arresting those who are most likely to be security threats. And that's the problem. Because no matter what the president does, he can't solve this problem in a year, at which time he's most likely a lame duck, and Congress will try to cut off his funding. And if ICE really did that, it would have to, if ICE really did what it has to do to solve this in 1 year, the country would be in open revolt. That means that the goals have to be prioritized, and that means, ideally, by this time next year, we reduce the number of dangerously criminal illegals. And yes, everyone here illegally is by definition illegal, but not all are national security risks. And once that happens, then this can move from being a national security issue to being a law enforcement issue. You don't have to like that, but that's where we are. But it's also a fact that we don't have the capacity to either detain or deport 12 million people. No matter how we got here, that's not going to happen, right? But what could happen would make it easier for people.
And there were 30 million illegals in this country previous to that.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are things we can do, right? I mean, we can make it easier for people to leave, which I think is happening. We can make it much more costly for people to employ people who are here illegally, which I don't think is happening. We need to do that. We need to end our self-defeating policy of family reunification, right? Because we can't just allow people in because their families are here, because it creates a perverse incentive for people to come here and then bring others with them. And then over time, what will happen is the people who are illegally, if we do those things, if we make it hard for them to be employed, if they don't have the correct authority to be here, then bit by bit the problem begins to solve itself. right? And at that point, our federal agencies can revert to their law enforcement roles, which is where they belong and which is what we're willing to tolerate as citizens.
Now,
right?
John, one of the issues that I see is that we've got Democrat politicians, and that's universally Democrat, unfortunately, who are disobeying federal law, giving benefits to illegals, even though it's illegal to do so. And they'll even say it. Oh, it's illegal to do so. Therefore, it's not happening. That's their specious logic. They're defying and not assisting federal agencies trying to enforce the law, and they're adding to the chaos that their ideology already created.
And I think there's so much to be said about what Bob just said. There's a lot there, right? So, the fact that we are openly allowing tax dollars to flow to a population that shouldn't be here or aren't here legally, that is the equivalent of the population of an entire state. I think that's the thing we got to remember, just how big this problem is. It's a problem that has to be solved, and unfortunately, it needs to be solved by Congress, which doesn't seem to be inclined to do so. Right? I think everybody wants the political issue more than
because
they
you
want
got
the
Democrats
solution.
in Congress preventing it.
Right?
Those are the blunt facts. That's the blunt facts. They won't get one Democrat vote in the Senate or the House, and if you don't get them in the Senate, then you can't pass anything.
Yeah, I think the answer.
I know
is
you
yes,
want to stay
Bob,
out of politics and try to assiduously so.
I'm trying.
But these are the realities. The Democrat Party is insane.
Right. I think that's part of it. I think the other thing that too, though, is that people like Bob and you have to look at places like Texas. Texas is arresting far more illegal aliens than is Minnesota, and there's no problem there. So what's the difference? Right? And the difference is one of, as Bob just said, law enforcement and attitude. One, would they respect the law, and two, by the way, a very large Hispanic population in Texas doesn't want illegals there either, because if you waited in line to come here legally, and I have friends who went through that process, and I had a friend who waited 8 years to get his legal status, and then somebody cuts in the line in front of you. What you're doing is you're creating a disincentive to following the law. Right? And this gentleman worked at a nursery out in this area, and that was he brought his family over, the whole thing, 8 years. It's not fair to him. So I think part of it is we have to look at the narrative and come up with a way to say why it is that we can't allow this to happen. That's not just about throwing people out who, let's face it, were invited in. Right? The last administration basically said, "Come on in," and we have to have some sensitivity to the fact that that's why that happened, and be willing to say to my friend who was here legally and waited 8 years to do so, no, you did it the right way, and therefore you should be treated differently than the people who didn't. I think that's kind of where we need to settle, if you will, for this thing to quiet down. Because the alternative is the entire country looking like Minnesota, which I don't think anybody wants.
Nobody wants to look like Minnesota. Hey, John Perillo, thank you very much. Always a pleasure, always educational. We appreciate it, John.
Thanks for being on duty, Bob, and thanks to you and your listeners. You should really be happy that guys like Bob and the Bulldog made it in after all that mess.
Bulldog never left.
That's right.
We'll be back. It's the Bob Cordaro Show. Our Veterans Tribute this hour and every hour, this day and every day. Brought to you by our man, John Basiliga, featuring today his first and largest company, Eastern Roofing Systems. Headquartered in Jessup, they are the premier institutional, commercial roofing contractor in the eastern United States. And because they're headquartered in Jessup, they bring all that expertise, all that buying power, and can do your roof on your home and your small building. Eastern Roofing Systems. Joe Ryman. He died December 26th last year. He was 77, from Wilkes-Barre. Born in that city, he was a 1966 graduate of James M. Coughlin High School. He entered the U.S. Navy right out of high school and was stationed on the U.S. Savage 383. After proudly serving his country, he was employed as an electrician for many years, later retiring from AZEC Building Products in Scranton. He loved bowling, baseball, was a Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders season ticket holder. He'll be sadly missed by his sons, his grandchildren, and many other family members. Joseph Joe Ryman. John Jack Bradish. He was 91 when we lost him last December 28th. He was from Freeland, a proud graduate of the prestigious MMI Preparatory School and a U.S. Army veteran who was stationed for most of his tour at Fort Knox, Kentucky. Jack returned to Freeland and worked alongside his father in the family business after military service. He was also employed in Nautilus Manufacturing and later worked as a production scheduler at Continental Whitecap, from which he retired in 1998. A devout member of the Catholic community, Jack was a longtime parishioner at Our Lady of Immaculate Conception Church. His civic pride was reflected in his dedicated service to the Freeland Elks Lodge. A humble man who enjoyed simple pleasures: music, family, his faith, and a scoop of ice cream. Jack was preceded in death by the love of his life, his wife of 63 years, Joan Rudwick Bradish. He'll be dearly missed by his sisters, his daughters, and his legacy of love lives lives on through his grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren. Jack Bradish. Our great veterans this hour brought to you by our man, John Basiliga, and his great Eastern Roofing Systems. Storm Tracker 16 forecast from meteorologist Allie Gallo. Well, that's brought to you by Montage Mountain. And they've got some good snow now, don't they? And everything was humming on all cylinders before this snow. Great week to ski. Today, breezy with a few flakes, otherwise cloudy, high near 20. Tonight, clouds, very cold, down to 6. Tuesday, cloudy and cold, 14. Wednesday, partly sunny, high 20. And that's your weather, brought to you by our friends at Montage Mountain. When I think weather, I think Montage, what's happening up there. When I think Montage, I think what's the weather. ask, why are we playing that song in the midst of all of this? Well, there's a reason. Because we have a new hourly sponsor, and that is Tina Morocco. And she is with Premier Sotheby's International Realty in Naples, Florida. And we're all thinking about that. A little bit about Tina. She received her broker's license in 2023. She holds a Juris Doctor from Widener, so she's a lawyer as well. She's a graduate of Penn State. And prior to her career, she was a fundraiser for Penn State, the Smithsonian, Catholic University of America, and Ave Maria University down there in Naples. Top producer in the region since 2017. And she has the distinction of being the #1 top producing agent for her team in 2022 and beyond. The area she serves, if you're thinking, includes Naples, Marco Island, Bonita Springs, Estero, Fort Myers, Sanibel. And she's got an extensive global network. Top shelf. Our girl, Tina Morocco. How are you, Tina?
Hey, Bob. I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm great. Hey, I'm thinking with our weather, 6 degrees tonight with 20, I don't know how many inches of snow, 15, whatever, on the ground. It's time to think Southwest Florida, isn't it?
It is, and I'm thinking you don't want to know that it's 83 degrees here right now.
Wow. Oh, my gosh. Well, we do want to think. We'll live vicariously for now. But
Okay.
tell us how is the market? If I'm thinking about doing something either for my snowbird proclivities or to move and retire to Southwest Florida, tell us a little bit about the real estate market.
Well, I would say it's a great time to be a buyer in Southwest Florida. We've got a lot of inventory and a lot of great properties on the market right now. So peak season for us is January, so you always find a lot of people down here looking, kind of exploring the area, getting to know our different regions in Southwest Florida. But, yeah, I would say peak season for buyers right now.
Why Southwest Florida as opposed to the rest of that state or elsewhere in the South?
So Southwest Florida is, I think, one of the nicest places in Florida because it's not as busy as the East Coast of Florida. It's not as busy as Miami. And we're the warmest place in Florida, really, in the wintertime. So if you get up to Tampa and Orlando, they're a little colder than us in the winter. We want to be warm, and we want the sun to be shining in the winter for vacation. So that's why Southwest Florida. The other thing is our Gulf beaches are absolutely stunning. I know you've been there, Bob, but it's just, if you haven't been there, it's just extraordinary. Our sunsets are amazing.
We're talking to Tina Morocco from Sotheby's in Naples, Sotheby's Premier Realty. Now, Naples and the vicinity, as I recall, has, along with San Diego, the best weather in the country.
Yeah, we have more sunshine days than anywhere else as far as I know. Yeah, and, we get some rainy weather in the summertime. It rains almost every day in the summertime. But for the most part, during the day, it's sunshine all day long. So, yeah.
So
right now, like I said, it's 83 and we're in January.
There's a ton of single homes available. There's a ton of other options, including, of course, condominium living throughout the region you serve. Is there a lot of inventory right now? You said it's a buyer's market.
Yeah, there's a lot of inventory right now. And I would say, the other thing, that attracts people to this area, the communities that we have are really geared towards active lifestyle. So we have a lot of golf, we have a lot of pickleball, tennis, so if you're somebody that likes to be out and about and doing things during the day, we really have a lot of communities that are geared towards that.
The restaurants, the bars, the cigar bars, everything else. It's all there.
The best shopping. We have the best restaurants. We have Fifth Avenue South, which I'm sure a lot of your listeners have been to, and it's just kind of iconic. You walk up and down. If you're a car lover, the luxury cars, the people watching, it's absolutely incredible this time of year.
Food's not bad either.
No. If you like seafood and shrimp and Gulf grouper, it can't be beat.
Well, Tina Morocco, I said we're going to start early with your advertising because, man, people need it.
They need the sunshine.
How do people get in touch with you and Premier Sotheby's International?
Sure. I think the best way is to call or text me. My number is 239-778-6817. You can also email me. It's tina.morocco@premiersir.com. But yeah, call or text. I have a website online. If you just Google my name, Muracco, my last name, I'll come up and my contact information, and you can search for properties right on my website.
And you've got a residence here, so you get what the conditions are here.
I sure do. I was just there a few days ago.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. We live near Naog Park in Scranton for part of the year, and it's my husband's from Scranton, so we have so many family members in Scranton, and we love coming to visit. So yeah, I know how cold it is right now, and I know our family loves to come visit Florida.
Well, if you want to get out of here, even for part of the year, Tina Morocco with Sotheby's International Realty in Naples that's the place to turn. Tina, we thank you. We look forward to having you on more this week, and then as time goes by. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Thank you, Bob.
All right. And you got a good theme. Right. You have a good theme song to play for today.
Thank you.
All right. Tina Morocco,
Right,
Sotheby's Premier Realty in Naples. We'll take a break and be back. It's the Bob Cordaro Show. The Beatles. Murph says this date, 1969, they recorded their hit Let It Be. And before that, the Clintons in 1992, Bill acknowledging he caused pain in his marriage. And then 1998, the same date, 6 years later, I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. I wonder if he understood the delicious irony in that. The same date, 6 years later. Funny, funny, funny. And we're back, Bob Cordaro, WILK, as we head towards the top of the hour. Let's go to Donald from Pittston. Donald, how are you?
Oh, good. Yeah, glad we got a new sponsor. Very reputable family, the Teller Eagles. Boy, after I heard that, my kid's out in Hawaii. I might do a bait and switch. Florida, get a condo or something.
No, her name's Denise
Maybe
Morocco.
look into something like that.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
her name is Lisa Morocco.
Oh,
Tina,
Morocco, yeah.
Tina Morocco.
I heard
You
of the
got me
name.
messed
I heard
up.
of it.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. I was talking about bait and switch. Just what I would do in Minnesota. I would take 1,000 ICE agents out and put 1,000 military police in, because what they're waiting for, they don't want the Insurrection Act. They don't want a riot. They just want chaos. They're waiting for the midterms for those committees to change, because this is a massive fraud.
Yes.
And they want to put their people in there and then let it go away. That's all this is about. It don't matter if a governor came to me, Tom Wolf. It don't matter. Tom Ridge said, "Hey, you're a veteran. Go down there and protest. I got your back." A lot, take your state back. A lot of guys, veterans, would say, "Okay, I will. If something happens, I'm not going to. If I get arrested, I'm going to be let free." So it all lies in Walls' hands with the cell phones. That man didn't belong down there.
No,
he was
doubt
probably a
about
good man, right? We're helping veterans and stuff, but he didn't belong there. He listened to his the governor, a moral authority that they thought was a moral authority, which he's not, to go down there and film ICE and stuff. They're not worried about the people that are dying. They're worried about themselves, probably from higher criminal activity, like going to jail for fraud or something. It's so obvious. You would never tell somebody to engage. There's no law enforcement. There's no cops there. So that would be my solution. Just maybe take the ICE stations out 1,000, grab about 1,000 military police, and watch over the ICE
I
stations.
just wish
like
they would arrest Walls, Ellison, and Fry. I wish they would just arrest them.
It all comes to Walls. He was the guy, like I said, he said, shake hands and move on.
But remember, Fry they're not dispensing the state police, who are supposed to keep these people within the lawful bounds of protesting. The Minneapolis police are not being sent out. And these guys, the ICE and the Border Patrol agents, are being forced to do it themselves, the crowd control. And it's not what they do.
How about my solution? Stay home. Don't protest, just like you would in a snowstorm. If you go out there, you might get hurt and get stranded. There's no difference.
I don't have a problem with them protesting. Listen, show everybody what a fool you are. Show everybody how gullible you are. But there are violent people in the midst of these protests, and it's unbelievable. I got to tell you. And then I've got trolls. I had to cut one off today. So stupid that they're ignoring the actual video and what it shows.
Yeah. Well, like I said, why don't the Walls just make a statement? Say, don't go out. He did the exact opposite. Because they want the chaos. Yep. Now, if you push the envelope too far, they start burning down buildings. Trump goes in with the Insurrection Act and takes over the state. Then they have no, They have no control. But they don't want that. They just want it.
They want to create chaos and then blame it on the people who prevent
it.
And
the media there showing it. Oh, another death. This is all by design.
Yeah.
Because of the massive fraud. I think the tentacles of this fraud leads to other states. Big time.
Amen.
And they know it, and they're trying to wait
it's going to get uncovered. Yep.
The committee changes, and then they figure, okay, we'll get. But that's wrong. That's the wrong thing to do. You don't tell people to go out with your cell phones, and I would never do it. I don't know what these scaring people that their state's being taken over. I don't see ICE not really bothering anybody that's a citizen there.
And remember this,
maybe they'll knock on the door.
Remember this: the open border policy created this issue.
All this,
and then they won't let them get these criminal illegal aliens at the prisons. They won't allow them to do it where
No.
they're supposed to be done. So when it's done out in the streets, they blame the government for what they've caused. It's insane.
It all goes back to Joe Biden with that open border, and they're not really identifying the real problem. That's one of the first problem. And then the governors not enforcing the law because of sanctuary cities. They should just bring. All you got to do is get your cops, or say, I need more police, or to come in there, military police, to assist my police force to protect ICE. We won't have this. No, they don't want this. You know what they're looking for? They're looking for those midterms, and that's why you have to go out and not let them have.
And they don't
have
care
what they
about.
want.
By the way, the Democrats, the left, they care less about this guy that just got killed than we do. They care less about him. He's collateral damage to benefit their sick, twisted ideology.
Anybody with any common sense can see what these people are doing. The open border, everything.
Yep.
And if you're a Democrat, it's not the JFK party. We know that.
No,
they just don't want to. Fetterman said it perfect, didn't he?
Yep.
About the
That's why we
guy
played
from
him at 10
Venezuela.
o'clock. It's crazy.
Yeah, that was a good sound clip Fetterman said with the bounty, the $25 million bounty. That was great.
Yep.
He said, "Yeah, you're not." He called them out.
If you didn't
And
want
now
him,
he
why'd
calls
you put
them
a
out. Now they
$25
want to
million
primary him.
bounty?
You can't tell the truth in that party.
No. Thank you, my man. Appreciate it. My Bacardo Jewelers watch tells me it's 11:01 on the nose. So we've got to take a break, and we'll be back after the news. Chet Parlavecchio, the Monday Mensch. Great good morning, everyone. My Cordaro Jewelers watch tells me it's 11:10 a.m. here in the great Northeast this beautiful Monday, January 26, 2026, the day after the storm. This is the Bob Cordaro Show. I am he, and it's a big day to fight for America, defend our values, and with the help of our man, John Basiliga, and his great Eastern Roofing Systems, to honor the brave who have made us and kept us free. People like the veterans we salute today, thanks to John, like Jack Bradish of Friedland, Joe Ryman, Wilkes-Barre, Alfred Bohr, Harding, Gary Rotherforth, Forest City, Gerald Berliner of Berwick, and John Mikowski of Cunningham. Veterans we lost, but love. So with history, our great founding fathers, and the incomparable Constitution of the United States of America as our guides, let's continue today's battle. Gaveling back to order this meeting of the Club for Common Sense, promising you that our commitment to common sense will indeed provide a sanctuary of sanity for you for the balance of this hour. This hour brought to you by Tina Morocco, Global Sales Advisor at Premier Sotheby's International in Naples, Florida. And if this storm didn't make you think Southwest Florida and Florida, well, then you are a dedicated snowman. By the way, Friday night, I went up to the Scranton Club for cigars and everything, meeting my buddy Steve Tallarico, and a great gang there. Among them, our friend and Wyoming County DA, Joe Peters. And he was with a guy named Andrew Franco, who's a VP of the Tunkhannock School Board. He works with the UGI, and he was telling me about his son who plows all kinds of places with a yard tractor. He grows flowers like a real hustler, much like Andrew, who could apparently do anything. Smoked meats, crazy. I'm listening to him, and I was getting exhausted with the things that he does. And he spoke to us about his younger son, who's got a developmental challenge. But this son, and I always talk to you about this in the context of our Democrat Party and their attitude towards life. Well, his son has developmental challenges, but he's become his best friend. And he was just describing how much his challenged son means to him and how much he brings to his life. We had tears in our eyes. It was just such a beautiful relationship and so important to hear. And that's the deal. Hey, yeah, we're happy to have Tina Morocco, Global Sales Advisor for Sotheby's in Naples. That's who you talk to. She is the best. She is the best. She's who you go to if you want to think about or pursue Florida real estate. And today may be a good idea to do it. But today is also Monday. And what do we do on Mondays? Well, we talk to the Monday Mensch. Our man, Chet Parlavecchio, not only did he dance to this song on Dancing in the Stars, he's in the New Jersey Sports Hall of Fame as a coach, football coach. He coached us in the pros, football star at Penn State on one of their greatest teams ever, football star with the Green Bay Packers, and much, much more. Our man, Chet Parlavecchio. Chester, how are you, my friend?
What's up, buddy? What's up? I'm trying to get myself out of this snow, Bob, is what I'm trying to do, like the rest of the world.
Yeah, you got
Man,
a
what
lot
a
in
nightmare.
Jersey, too, didn't you?
Oh, we got smacked. I mean, it was then the freezing rain, and I tell you what, it's depressing. And I was laughing because I was listening to you, and you're talking about Naples. That's where I'm going in 2 weeks.
Well,
Danny Biondi. Danny Biondi's got a place down there. So me, Ricky, and Pete and all us are all going down there. So it'll be a Penn State reunion.
Well, you got to get in touch with Tina Morocco at Sotheby's and say,
Absolutely,
hey,
that's what I was thinking. You got to hook me up.
I will do that. I'll send you her info.
Please.
So, Chester, tell me, I thought the games were pretty good yesterday.
All right. Well, as we wind down, like I said, I get a kick out of this because we went through the entire season. We're winding down. We got these two to talk about, and it's just about over. I got to be honest with you. I mean, I watched that first game, and all I could think to myself is, man, there's no Mahomes here. There's no Hurts here. There's no Burrow here. The quarterbacking was abysmal. It just didn't have the feel of an AFC
sizzle,
title.
right?
No, there was nothing to it. I mean, again, I love Drake May, and I think he's had an outstanding season, but he's not played well in the playoffs. He did not play. The only reason he didn't get any crap for what he did with Houston is because Stroud was that much worse than him.
Yeah.
But, Drake May has not played well. He hasn't made – Drake May's playing like a kid, exactly like you would suspect. That is his first soiree into the playoffs. It's his first big stage, and then rather than make a play, he'd rather not make a mistake. And I sense in him just the inability to make a play right now. Now, for him to continue, for him to do something in the Super Bowl, that's going to have to change. Because right now, you're surviving on the fact that if Bo Nix played yesterday, I have to feel Denver would have definitely gotten the better of that game. I mean, not that Stidham was terrible, but he's a backup, and you can see what the game plan was. The game plan was to shorten the game, try to run the ball a little more efficiently, and play defense. That I said the bet of the week was the under in that game. I mean, if anybody's watching, the bet of the week was the under. I mean, because you knew that's the way that game was going to be played. Now, again, you look at both teams defensively. Denver's got a good football team, and so obviously there's New England, and that you would think should always keep them in it. But in the case of New England, I mean, when you look at the numbers of the game, I mean, they're barely high school numbers. I mean, literally, Drake May threw for 80 yards. Now, I know about the elements. I know it snowed.
Was it that little? I didn't know that.
He threw for 80 yards. Oh, no, they only had 170 yards in offense. I mean, like I said, it was a glorified Pop Warner numbers. I mean, it was, like I said, neither team did anything. But I was expecting that from Denver. I wasn't expecting that from New England. Now, like I said, the hunch on this game is simply this. New England's defense has played very well. They've played very well. Their up front four does a great job. They get pushed. They get pressure. In the secondary, Gonzalez is playing as good as you could possibly play right now. They're playing very well. But for them to either beat the Rams or the Seahawks, and it turned out to be the Seahawks, I can't imagine that's not a 6.5, 7.5, 8.5 point line right now. Because I can't see them winning that game without risking something. You can't play this conservative again. You're lucky you ran into Stroud, who was the same novice at the playoffs that you are, and you ran into Stidham, who was replacing an injured Bo Nix. You got very lucky to face those two quarterbacks in the last two rounds. You won't get away with it again. It'll catch you this time. So again, if I'm New England, they got to extend the field a little bit. Other than fade routes to Booty down the sideline, there's got to be some intermediate game going there. Things to Hunter Henry. Stevenson's a good receiver. They're going to have to open the game up a little bit, in my opinion, to win the game a couple of weeks from now. Obviously in the Super Bowl.
Let's talk about that second game. Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, no, in the other game, I felt terrible. Stafford's had an incredible season. He played a great game. You can't blame him for anything. Sam Darnold had his coming out party. Sam Darnold, I said to myself, this is actually comical if you really think about this. Look at the poor, even in this, the Jets can't get a break. Has nothing to do with them, but they've got to sit there. Think about this if you're a New York Jet fan. You've got to sit there, not only watch Sam Darnold play in the Super Bowl, but against your worst rival, the New England Patriots. And on top of that, that boob in New York lights the top of the Empire State Building with the colors of the New England Patriots.
What
I
was
said,
that
my
about?
God, the poor Jets can't get a break. I mean, they just can't get a break. They got to watch Darnold play against their arch rival. Win either way, they lose.
Now, Darnold
But
wasn't exceptional, but he was solid, right?
he was very solid. He used his legs when he had to. He had no oblique problem going into the game. He threw for over 300 yards.
Yeah.
Bobby. That's a hell of a day. The kid in Jigba's as good a receiver right now as there is in football. And let's be honest, let's give Puka Nacua his, he's another great receiver, ball control receiver. I mean, just a great runner after the catch. You saw two great receivers. And again, something that we had talked about all year. In the end, Bobby, what was the difference? A turnover.
Yeah.
A turnover. You know what I mean? Poor kid, he put the first one on the ground, and then he let obviously the second one is
Chet,
the one that
I had a big disagreement with the coaching decision to go on that 4th and 5 for Los Angeles at the end of the game. I said, make it a 1-point game, and anything could happen. There's still 4 minutes left.
Well, two things happened, right? I think in that case, I have no problem, but I just did like the play call. Because if I knew that I was going on 4th, I'm running on 3rd.
Yeah.
And they were running the ball well there. I'm getting a serviceable 3rd down. I didn't like the play call there. I would have, if I knew, I don't think they could have stopped. Remember, they could have still got a first down there. They still could have got a first down.
That's right.
So my point being is I would have ran it twice. I had no problem going for it because I do believe at that point they're wondering whether they could stop them again. And again, didn't have to stop them from scoring a touchdown. All they needed at that point was first downs. You're trying to win a game again. 4-minute offense, 2-minute offense is something they drill all the time. And at that point, I sensed it would have been tough for the Rams to get the stop at that point.
Yeah.
And I think they felt, let them drive the ball. If worst case, they got to drive the ball 96 yards, I'll get another shot at it. And in the end, that's exactly what happened. They just ran out of time.
I also thought for that 4th down call, extend the field to the end zone, but throw underneath. And
well, here's also what gets you at that point. As great a year as Stafford had, he's a wooden Indian. I mean, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah,
and there was a moment in that where I thought an athletic quarterback would have ran that right in.
Mm-hmm.
There was, if you really look at that, I'm screaming up the show. I'm going, run it, just go. And he hesitated again, and he's just not, let's be honest, he's 37 years old. He doesn't have that burst, never has. That's never been his game. That's where really a stationary quarterback, in my opinion, catches you because he's not a threat. In those cases, Bobby, what you would have liked to do in a perfect world, remember what's happening there. The field is reduced. The safeties are in the box. So it's easier to play man-to-man because you don't have a lot of field to defend.
Yeah.
So everybody's pressed up. So it's important that you got to put the defense in a quandary. You got to make them make a decision. Well, how do you do that? You got to get that quarterback a lot of times out on the perimeter, give him that run-pass option where if he doesn't like what he sees, he could put it down and go himself. When you stay in that pocket on the goal line, you become one-dimensional, and the field gets trapped real quick. If the receivers aren't open right now inside the 10 throwing the football, they're very rarely, unless the protection is that good or the quarterback is athletic enough to extend the play that long, is a receiver going to clear. Mm-hmm. There's just no room. It's just no room. So I didn't mind them going for it. I didn't like the play call. And the only other thing maybe I would have done, I would have went for the 2 on the previous touchdown to make it a 3-point game. I think I would have went for the 2 on the previous touchdown. I thought,
I mean, once you got to score a touchdown anyway, why not? I didn't even think of that. Yeah. I didn't remember that. Yeah.
I would have went for the 2. I would have went for the 2 earlier. You know what I mean? Hey, listen, in the previous game, the blunder by whatchamacall, Peyton. You kicked the field goal there. You got to see. You had a chance to go up 10-0. You kicked the field goal early in that game.
Yep.
That was that, and I said it not because he missed it. I'm sitting here saying long before that. Not because they didn't get it. I'm saying you got to kick a field goal here. This is going to be that kind of game. This is going to be a low points are going to be at a premium. Well, in that case, in the Ram game, I understand not chasing the point earlier. But once it hit the fourth quarter and I scored that touchdown, I think I'm going to go for 2. I want to make that 3. I want to make that 3 at that point.
By the way, my friend Johnny Anelli tells me the line is 3.5. It's opened at 3.5 only for the Super Bowl. Yeah.
That's shocking to me. That really is. Again, I don't know if it's just no faith in Sam Darnold. I mean, I just don't like the way Drake May has played in these playoffs. He's played very conservative. He's played not to win. Again, what's the worst way to get in trouble? When you don't play to win, when you play not to make mistakes. And he's been lucky, Drake May, that the other guy has made more mistakes than him. And I love Drake May, and I think he's going to be a great quarterback in the league. But he's got – I know this much. Let's say it right now. To win that game next, he's got to do a lot. He can't throw for 86 yards.
Yeah.
That ain't going to get it done. Because right now, Seattle's scoring points. And then my highlight of the game, of the whole day, which to me, just, as a past high school coach, and I sit there sometimes and I say, man, I get mad at 15 and 16-year-olds. And every now and then I just have to be brought back to reality that, are you kidding me? When the guy went into the Rams sideline on fourth down after the stop, and somehow started yelling at the Rams sideline and got the 15-yard call that kept that drive alive, and on the next play, the Rams scored.
Yeah.
You sit there and you say, this is a professional athlete.
This is what they do
you
for a
talk
living.
about the world being about me, me, me. Hey, look at me. You fool. I mean, I can't even – what I saw when the camera went to the sideline, his own teammates went after him a little bit, and rightfully so. Can you be that dumb to do something like that? Because the truth is, that should have cost him the football game. You get off the field on fourth down, and you got some fool wandering in the Rams sideline. My question to him would have been, what did you hope to accomplish? Did you think you were going to intimidate the Rams there and say, I'm not coming back out there, not with that guy out there? A matter of fact, the next play, he was the guy that got burned for the touchdown. I mean, you talk about sometimes wanting to teach kids the right – and I always said, Bobby, we talk about trying to teach kids the right things and sportsmanship and all that stuff. And here they watch a guy making how many million literally with a selfish, stupid move like that almost cost his football team the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And that's my observations of the weekend, big guy.
My man, Mark Mayer, who a good player with me and also a coach, he said he goes out of his mind with that kind of stuff as well. It's hard. It's harder to watch football as a coach. Right?
Oh, I like I said, how those guys, and again, the coach don't look much older than him. I understand maybe why it's the Cowers and the Parcells and the Landrys and all those guys couldn't exist today, because I don't know how you don't throw that guy right off your sideline. Yeah. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Get in the locker room and get off my sideline. Because to be that's selfish. To put your team, hey, listen, the guy that fumbled the punt, hey, poor kid, I feel terrible for him. I'm sure the kid's brokenhearted. The poor kid, the thing that made it worse was he let one fumble lead to the second fumble. I don't want to see that happen to any young kid. But the other thing, completely preventable, to put your team in that kind of jeopardy on that stage, it's unconscionable.
Mm-hmm.
But the sad part is, Bobby, it's what we see all around professional sports today. Me, me, me. Look at me.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about, brother.
Well, that's our Monday Mensch. That's Chet Parlavecchio. We'll have you at least a couple more times. We'll do a preview with you before the Super Bowl, and then we'll do a post Super Bowl. I'm not here on the Monday, but maybe on the Tuesday.
All right, and they listen, by the way, when you go to your cigar place that I was listening to, go pick me up a couple. Thank you.
Oh, you got to come in. You may have to come in for the Super Bowl preview. We'll see.
Sounds good, buddy.
All right.
I'll bring Randy with me.
Would love it. Chet Parlavecchio, the Monday Mensch. We'll be back. Our veterans this hour and every hour, this day and every day. Brought to you by our man John Basiliga, featuring today his first company, his biggest company, Eastern Roofing Systems. Headquartered in Jessup, they are one of the premier and one of the largest roofing contractors in the eastern United States for institutional and commercial purposes. And they bring that expertise and that buying power to you here in Northeast Pennsylvania, because this is where they live for your house or small building. Eastern Roofing Systems. Gerald Berliner, we lost him at 86, December 26th last year. He was a veteran who was a baseball, NASCAR, and movie buff. He was from Berwick. Born in Brooklyn, New York. He was the son of the late Milton Lawrence and Julia Deutsch Berliner. Graduate of Erasmus High School. He then joined the U.S. Navy, serving this country and all of us for 22 years, retiring as a senior chief radio man. Gerald Berliner enjoyed golf, fishing, hunting. He was a watch collector. I'm guaranteeing you a Bacardos fan. He's survived by his wife of 65 years, the former Carol Roy. 2 sons, 4 grandchildren, 6 great-grandchildren, and 1 great-great-grandchild. How about that? Full military honors. He was buried at Saratoga National Cemetery, Saratoga Springs, New York. Gerald Berliner. John Mikowski. He was only 57 when we lost him. A Navy veteran. Loved to read. He loved to fish. He was from Cunningham. We lost him December 29th last year. Resident of Black Creek Township for more than 10 years. Born in Bloomsburg. He graduated from Columbia Montour AVTS in 1986. He faithfully served in the United States Navy from 1987 until 1991. For more than 20 years, John was employed by Bemis in Hazleton as a laborer. He loved spending his time fishing, gaming, and reading. His mother survives him. 2 sisters, nieces, nephews, uncles, and all kinds of family. Died too young, 57. John Mikowski. Our veterans this hour brought to you by our man John Basiliga and Eastern Roofing Systems. Storm Tracker 16 forecast from meteorologist Ali Gallo, brought to you by our friends at Montage Mountain. The conditions will never be better. This is going to be an amazing week at Montage. Ali tells us today, breezy with a few flakes, otherwise cloudy, high near 20. Tonight, clouds, very cold, down to 6. Tuesday, cloudy and cold, 14. Wednesday, partly sunny, a warm-up. It'll be 20 degrees. Amazing. That weather brought to you by our friends at Montage Mountain. When I think weather, I think Montage. When I think Montage Mountain, I think, what's the weather? Simon and Garfunkel. Great song. Bridge Over Troubled Water. Murph says this date, 1970, that song was released. Bob Cordaro back. My mom says, and she said you wouldn't want his name mentioned, but there's a guy in their neighborhood. And the neighbors who moved there, they moved there in their 20s and 30s. They're in their 80s and 90s now. And he does a good part of the neighborhood with his snowblower up in Hill section of Dunmore. That's great stuff. By the way, Babylon Bee has the Bee reports ICE's 7 most horrifying atrocities. Number 1, they deported an innocent sex offender just for being brown. Number 2, they cruelly forced a kid to wear a blue beanie, causing the other kids to laugh at him. Number 3, they forced the country to have to hear Tim Walz's voice again. Number 4, purposely dented this car while it was running over an ICE officer. Number 5, knocked out the eyeball of a kid whose only crime was trying to bash an agent's head in with a shovel. Number 6, targeted this man because he spoke in Mexican accent while saying, "I'm going to kill you." Number 7, shot an innocent man who was doing nothing but fighting ICE while armed with his handgun. The Babylon Bee, always great, and bipartisan fun. But man, what do you do with people that just don't want to get it? I'm not seeing it. I really don't. Why don't you want to get it? Why don't you want to face the facts? Yesterday's killing, or the other day's killing, was plain and simple. The guy got in their face while carrying a sophisticated pistol with an additional sight on it. Non-lethal force was used. Failed to subdue him. 3 and 4, maybe even 5 ICE agents getting on top of him. He's fighting violently. The gun was there. It was removed by one of the ICE agents. The only question remaining is, what did the agents think before they shot him? He was still violently fighting them. But his gun had been removed. Were they aware of that fact? What was in their minds? That needs to be explored. Crazy. These people are crazy. They're soft-headed, and they're being incited by politicians and left-wing lunatics who have no concern for their welfare. Yeah, let's go confront an armed ICE agent. Let's go confront armed law enforcement while they're doing their jobs, which are already dangerous. Let's blow whistles and create a mess, hoping we don't get shot. What a bunch of idiots. And their leadership. I said this, Walz, Ellison, and Fry have got to go to jail or get a beating of their lives. We'll take a break and be back. It's the Bob Cordaro Show. Three Dog Night released their hit Celebrate, Murph says, this date, 1970. And we're going to finish with this particular song, because January 26, 1996, Super Bowl 31, played on January 26, 1997. What? I don't know. That's confusing. Anyway, Green Bay Packers defeated New England Patriots in the Louisiana Superdome. Scored 35-21. Murph says the Super Bowl halftime show, unlike the disgraceful show they're going to put on this year, it featured the Blues Brothers, James Brown, and ZZ Top. They ended their show together performing the Blues Brothers hit Gimme Some Lovin', as Murph says, back when the NFL was normal. Ugh. Some clown's going to come on that I never heard of with a dress. You can't even make it up. What is the point? What point are you making? I don't understand it. Somebody texted in, which is sort of cute and funny. 250 years ago, you'd be wearing a red coat, Bob. Highly unlikely, but it's a funny thing. But I want to comment on it. The concept. Yes, I'm supporting the government, but only when they're enforcing the law. They're trying to save these idiots from criminals who were illegally let into this country by scumbag Biden, cheered on by Ellison, the Attorney General of Minnesota, Fry, the mayor of Minneapolis, and Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, who don't care about the people they represent at all. They not only don't care if they become victims to these criminals, they're putting them out and encouraging them to go out and get in the face of enforcement agents and put their lives on the line. I don't see Tim Walz out there making faces. I don't see him on the front lines, that disgusting piece of spit. Not at all. Hey, by the way, just reminding you, this hour brought to you by Tina Morocco. She's with Premier Sotheby's International in Naples, and she's the gal to call if you've had enough of this weather. Let's go to Luciano from Luzerne County. Hi, Luciano.
Thank you for taking my call. Bob, I like to listen to WILK, but I pray to the good Lord Jesus Christ that you don't get canceled. Sometimes you say things that people in the streets agree with you, especially a black brother. I know he's Catholic Christian. He says you don't filter words out. I pray, because I believe you're the highest, the most listened to talk show host on WILK. I'll just say this, two comments. These Democrats, these radical Democrats want to impeach Kristi Noem. What do you think about that? They say that if they don't get impeachment by her for this week, they will not support. They will shut down the government. And the Republicans have said, "Shut it down. We dare you, Democrats." And what do you think about that, Bob?
Well, here's the funny part: the House has passed for the first time in about 30 years. They've passed all of there's I believe 13 budgets that have to be passed for regular order is what they call it, instead of an omnibus bill. They passed all of them, the House, with that slender majority they have. It goes to the Senate. A disgusting Chuck Schumer may be able to hold it up, because the only one that'll make any sense in the entire Democrat caucus of the Senate is John Fetterman. The only one makes any sense.
And one last thing. Did you hear about this? That California is financially broke, and so is the city of New York, the state of New York, because of migrant invasion, hospitals, schools, social service. New York, California, the state of California is, I checked it on the internet, they are completely bankrupt. They need federal funds from the government. And February 1st, Donald Trump said he's not going to support any sanctuary cities, including my city of Philadelphia, New York, and California, Chicago, and I agree with them.
Nor should he.
with him.
Nor should
What do
he.
you
You're
think?
right. You're right 100%. He should not. If you
No
are
federal funds.
insist on breaking the law, we don't care. You don't get federal funds, period.
No federal funds at all. And it's going to happen February 1st. I think Donald Trump, one thing he does do, he keeps his word. He doesn't care what the Democrats think because he knows that he's for the American people. He's for American citizens, people. I'm a freaking Latino. My family lives in Texas, Arlington. I support them. I support the Republicans.
He's sending Tom Homan to Minnesota, and that's a good thing. And but the problem in Minnesota is that the local and state police are not assisting with these idiot protesters.
Pure insanity. Loco, brother. We call it in Spanish loco. Crazy,
Yeah.
Crazy Democrats.
Amen.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, brother.
Take care.
All right. Well, the Sue Henry Show is next. The Rob O'Donnell Show after that. I think they'll get here. I know a bunch of people stayed overnight yesterday, particularly the morning people. The Bulldog was here, and they gave him free food. He was happy. He was more than happy. So I did not. But this is the Blues Brothers, James Brown, ZZ Top, back when the NFL, before the NFL was diseased by Roger Goodell, who now will have some clown in a dress performing at halftime. Unbelievable. Well, the sound quality is not that great because it's the actual broadcast. But we'll go out with that, right? We could do that. Thank you to our brand new sponsor, though. We're very pleased. Tina Morocco with Premier Sotheby's International in Naples, who's trying to tell you maybe this is a sign. Get a second place in Florida, or maybe you want to retire there. Who knows? My Bacardo Jewelers watch tells me it's 11:59, which means it's about time for me to go. I can't stay. God willing, I'll be with you tomorrow morning at 9. But for now, I must say, we are gaveling this meeting of the Club for Common Sense to a close. Have a great afternoon, guys.